Welcome to the University of Leicester and welcome to this online taster event. My name is Dr. Matt Wild. I am a lecturer in human geography here at Leicester. I'm based in the School of Geography, Geology and the Environment. So I'm going to say a bit about what we can offer if you choose to come and study at the University of Leicester, in particular if you want to come and study geography. Before I do that, I'll just say a little bit about myself. So I am, as I said, a lecturer in human geography. I've been at Leicester since 2018. I did my PhD at the London School of Economics and then had various teaching and research positions before starting here. I am a specialist in a country called Venezuela, which many of you probably know is the kind of northern tip of Latin America, or sometimes known as South America. And I've been conducting what's known as ethnographic research. So that is research based around hanging out with people for a long period of time. I've been doing that in Venezuela since 2008. So I do fairly regular trips back to the country. And I've also done some research in London. So a thing to bear in mind is when you come to a university like Leicester, your lecturers are research active. I'll say a little bit more about what that means a bit later on in the talk. My main interest is in the relationship between what we might call macro political and economic forces. So how the global economy is structured, the extent to which it is just or fair, questions about how we might make it fairer, and the everyday lives that people enact as they are forced to shape their lives amid these global forces. So I'm interested in the kind of relationship between the macro and the micro, which is very common among human geographers. We are interested in looking at complex problems across different scales. So I want to introduce you a little bit to the school here at Leicester. So geography and geology and in the environment. We deliver research and teaching across these three strands. So that's geography, environmental science and geoscience. We're based in the Bennett building. We're a very supportive and friendly community. We've got about 320 undergraduates at most times. We also have a large number of postgraduate students, around 45 academics and 20 support staff, and a number of postgraduate researchers and postdoctoral researchers. So we're quite a kind of thriving and active community. There are many different strands to the research we do here which cuts across the social, natural and physical sciences. But I think the thing that unites all of the work that we do is an interest in addressing the critical challenges that we all face in the present moment and in the coming century. So questions around the Earth's environments, about how people can live just and healthy lives, and how we can learn to live more sustainably, both with the planet and with one another. So if you come to Leicester and study one of our courses here in GGE, you will be studying a range of social, analytical and scientific skills, and you'll be gaining the necessary capabilities to answer these questions in a whole array of different fields. This is a really warm and welcoming environment, and it's easy to say that, but it's true here. We're kind of we specialise in various areas of geography and geology, but we are also small enough that you're not just a face in the crowd, and I think that's quite an important aspect of what we offer here. So why would you come to Leicester and study geography and the environment? Well, as I mentioned before, one of the critical things that we do here is that we study real world problems that matter to ordinary people right in the present moment, and not just matter to people here in the UK, but matter to people across the world. You will be highly employable. We have an excellent track record of our students going on to find work, and I'll say a little bit more about that later on. You'll learn key skills for the coming decades. So you can be part of what's been called the big data revolution, and you can be part of doing the work that is required to ensure that we have a sustainable planet and sustainable political and economic systems. You'll also learn to be critical, creative and analytical. We are not interested in students who don't ask important questions. We're interested in students who want to challenge their own assumptions, who want to think critically about the world around them. And our job here is to teach you how to do that, to give you the skills that you need to take that critical thinking into whatever area of work you choose to go into. So you'll be studying diverse disciplines that have a huge scope for specialisation around specific interests. And again, I'll say a bit more about this when we get into some of the module outlines below. So you have the choice when you come to Leicester of studying between topics that either have close links to other disciplines. So in human geography, we have links to international relations, to sociology, to political science. And similarly, on the physical side of geography, there are links to biology, to environmental science, to geology, and more. But the point about making these links is it gives you the capacity to see things from different angles and therefore to see the big picture. So what kind of skills will you get here at Leicester? Well, if you look at the image there on the right, that's Luke, one of our recent geography graduates who went on to work for the Environment Agency in hydrology and telemetry. And Luke says that what he got here at Leicester is the ability to look at problems and situations analytically. So the skills that you get here, they're not just conceptual skills. It's not just thinking about the world in kind of theoretical ways. They're practical skills that you can apply and you can take into real world forms of employment. There's a great attention to empirical detail here, a great attention to research methods, so how we find the answers to the problems and the questions that we have. And a major part of the work we do is teaching you to work collaboratively in teams. That's both in our small group seminars, in our tutorials, and in the field work that we do when we go on field trips. And the field trips is an absolutely integral part of the experience here at Leicester. This is Charlie, who went on to work for ACOM as an environmental consultant, who graduated a couple of years ago. As he says, his second year module in geographical data analysis was critical to what he went on to do in his master's and in his career. Information visualization was also important. A lot of the technical reports that he now does in his everyday work rely on the skills that he learned here. So the ability to visualize maps, photos, diagrams geographically. So these are just a couple of examples of the kinds of skills you might get on one of our geography degrees. So as I mentioned, Leicester I think it strikes a really nice balance between being a research active institution, a leading research institution where all of your lecturers are research active, which means they're going out, doing field work, publishing papers, attending conferences. We are creating knowledge, not just teaching it. But that balances with being a kind of medium-sized course, which means that you get a lot of staff contact, which means you get a lot of attention from staff members, and that we are accessible. This is not an ivory tower institution. You will speak to your professors, you will have one-to-one tutorials with your professors, and that's a really important part of the experience, and it's a really important part of the ethos here. We have dedicated learning, social and laboratory spaces, so spaces inside the Bennett building where I'm sat right now, so that students are working alongside staff in the same place. We have flexible courses, flexible degree options that have a lot of different options. So you can choose to merge human geography and physical geography, or you can choose to combine physical geography with environmental science or geology. So this is designed to give you choice and freedom about what you want to study. It's also designed to make you more employable. And this is borne out by our career, the outcomes of our students. We got a 97% success rate of employment after 6 months. And geography and the environment ranked 16th out of 68 institutions, and geology 11th out of 36 in the Guardian League table. So we are at the very top end of teaching rankings and of research rankings. But we kind of marry that to being a friendly, warm and supportive environment, which is, I think, quite a unique combination. As I mentioned, research-led teaching, I'll say a little bit about some of the research that I do. So when I go to Venezuela, I lived there for 2 years between 2008 and 2010. I worked with low-income barrio residents in some of the poorest cities in Venezuela. And I worked with political activists and ordinary people who were going through many processes of social and political change. And that's the thing about your lecturers at Leicester. We're active field researchers who dedicate our time to furthering knowledge about people and the planet and contributing to public scholarship. So the time I spent in Venezuela talking to people such as those you can see in the images below went on to be published in academic papers, went on to be published in comment pieces, and that adds to the public debate, it adds to public knowledge about particular situations, and we bring that into the classroom, and that is a really important part of what you'll experience. Research that we do is integral to our teaching, and we can then teach you the skills that we learn, and you can take those on for your own careers. So there are 5 different geography and environmental science degrees and 3 related master's courses. There's a strong affiliation to the new Leicester Space Park, which was established over the last couple of years. And we've got a particular research strength in climate change and human impact on the planet, in Earth observation and GIS, that's geographical information systems, so mapping, digital mapping systems, sustainable use of natural resources. Many of my colleagues in geology are sort of world experts in that. Evolution and past environments, it's again a big part of what our geology colleagues do. Environmental governance and justice, urban rural transformation, migration, mobility and citizenship. So the latter 3 there is the areas that I specialise in and that my colleagues in human geography specialise in. The images you can see on the left of the screen there come from our field trips. We offer a range of field trips in human and physical geography, and I'll come on to say a little bit more about those shortly. So the undergraduate degrees, I'm not going to go through every single point here because it's quite a lot of information to manage, but I just want to give you an overview. In terms of our undergraduate degrees, we have the BA in geography, the BA in human geography, BSc in geography, BSc in environmental science, and a new BSc in physical geography and geology. It's worth saying, and it's an important point to highlight, all of these have year abroad options, which turns them into 4-year degrees. So we have links to universities in the United States, in Canada, in the Netherlands, various other locations in Europe, and many of our students who go on to do this absolutely love the experience. It's one that I often recommend to students to take on. So teaching and learning. What you'll find is you have a mixture of core and optional modules. So particularly in the first year, you'll do a series of core modules which are designed to give you the fundamental knowledge sets and skills and understandings which you can then take on into the second and third year. There's a varied delivery in how we do our teaching. So we do lectures, we use small group seminars, small group tutorials. On physical geography, you'll have lab work, there'll be computer practicals, and of course field work. And assessment is also diverse. We mix up the type of assessment. So some modules may have exams, others will have essay writing, presentations, group research work. Again, we try and give you as much diversity as possible because this is what employers are looking for, and this will make you a more rounded graduate. All of our degrees include individually supervised final year dissertation projects. So that's where you learn the skills to conduct your own research and then go out and do it yourself. And we support you through that process. And again, that's a really formative experience for our students. And it's something which many say really counts when it comes to applying for jobs. Typically, you'll have around 11 to 14 hours timetabled contact per week in years 1 and 2. So there's a lot of contact with us. And we do that because we want to ensure that you guys are ready for the final phase of your degree in year 3. Okay, so to give a kind of brief overview, in year 1, it's all about laying foundations. That's where you learn, as I said, the core knowledge and skills, get to grips with university life and start to develop those transferable skills. In year 2, it's really about developing those skills further and starting to refine and improve on the skills you've already got, and learning to sort of develop some of your own areas of specialism and your own particular interests. So that first year doesn't count your final degree. You have to pass it, but it doesn't count. The second year is 33% and the third year is 66%. And in that third year, that's when you really start to specialise and work on your own individual projects and learn how to demonstrate deep knowledge, critical thinking, and indeed creating your own knowledge through your own research projects. So again, this is something which spans all of our degree programs, and these are fundamentals to how we believe in teaching. So a bit more on the specifics of our degree offers. So if you were to take the BA in geography, this is a focus on human geography that allows you to also sample and do some modules in physical geography. So the first year is basically a 50-50 split. And if you found, for example, that you preferred the physical geography modules, then you can switch at the end of year one to the BSc, which is more concentrated on physical geography. You have residential fieldwork in years 1 and 2, so that's kind of core part of the offer. And then there are optional modules in year 3. This is a degree that's accredited by the Royal Geographical Society. So the BSc in geography is the flip of that. So it focuses on physical geography, but allows you to take human geography options throughout the degree. And again, if you were to decide at the end of the first year that you preferred human geography, then you could switch to the BA at that particular moment. And here, you have core residential fieldwork again in years 1 and 2, an optional field trip in year 3, and then optional field modules in climate change, dynamic biosphere, water quality, and many others. The BA in human geography is for those students who are absolutely certain at the start of their degree that they want to focus only on human geography, so it doesn't have any of the physical geography options. And what this does is it means that you can do cognate modules from related disciplines in modules in disciplines such as sociology, international relations, politics, media and communication, and others. So that it's a really nice social science concentrated, but it's an excellent degree for those of you who already think that social science is the way to go. The BSc in environmental science is a holistic understanding of the Earth. So this merges work from physical geography, from the biological science, from geoscience, and indeed from archaeology as well. And again, there are field trips in years 1 and 2 and optional field trips in year 3. The new degree course that we now offer is a BSc in physical geography and geology. So this kind of straddles both sides of geography and geoscience, considering how the functioning of the Earth has operated from the deep past, which is what geologists are interested in, through to the present. Again, fieldwork is part of the first 2 years, and then you have optional modules in things like the rock cycle, contemporary Earth system, geochemistry, geoscience, and isotopes in the environment. So a huge array of conceptual and practical skills that you can take forward into an array of different employment options. I'll say a little bit about the field courses. The field course is a really big part of our offer across our degree programs. In year 1 and year 2, you have options on the BSc, the physical geography side, of going to Devon in Sheffield and the Peak District. Year 2, slightly further afield, you get to go to Almeria in Spain if you're doing a BSc, or to Copenhagen in Denmark as part of the BA, the Human Geography program. The field trips are largely subsidised by the school. We do ask for an annual contribution of £100 in year 1 and £250 in year 2, but the rest of the costs are covered by the university. And all of the equipment and accommodation and everything is provided by the university. The field courses are absolutely fantastic, and they are often regarded as really formative experiences by the students. That's certainly been my experiences with our field courses abroad. And then the third year are the optional field courses, where you can go to places such as the Colombian Amazon, Mojave Desert in the United States, and to Berlin on the BA. So these are the different degree options that you can take on in the third year. There are bursaries available to support students with these. So if the costs look prohibitive, then it doesn't necessarily mean you won't be able to attend. So as I mentioned, teaching at Leicester is research-led, and this is such an important part of our ethos. Our staff are internationally recognised in their respective field, and we take a huge pride in encouraging students to engage with the latest work in the discipline. All of us update our modules every year to include the cutting-edge research, which means that what you're learning in the classrooms is essential to the debates that we're engaging in as academics with colleagues and scholars across the world. So you're not just learning kind of textbook geography or textbook geology, you're learning up to the minute cutting edge research. So the final year dissertation, I mentioned that a little bit earlier, but it's a real opportunity to focus on an area of research that you're interested in. It could be a place that you visited, it could be a particular experience you had, it could be a particular theme that you've been interested in your modules. Some students at human geography go back to their hometowns, some students go back to countries where their parents came from, and you do your own empirical research. And it really is a chance to get to grips with kind of hands-on research, to use cutting-edge technologies, and to think through the methods and concepts that we use as scholars. So this is part of your training that we give you that you can take into so many different fields after you graduate. Opportunities and support. All students get a personal tutor, which is overseen by our senior tutor team led by Margaret Byron. There are regular office hours, there are personalised electronic timetables, and a virtual learning environment where many of the learning materials that we use are uploaded, and you can access those online and prepare for your seminars and your tutorials that way. So it's a very user-friendly approach here. The degrees are easy for students to take. We give you all the materials that you need, and we support you through that process. We have some of the most up-to-date facilities in the country. These include up-to-date refurbished labs that were redone in 2020, specialist teaching spaces, and for those of you doing physical geography and geology, all of the laboratory equipment listed there on the left of the screen. So this is a cutting-edge place to work. As part of what you do, if you choose either the year abroad or the year in industry, so you turn your degree into a 4-year, this is part of our Global Citizen Programme, which again is, I mentioned some of the places you can go to for the year abroad. It's a really good thing to do as part of your degree. It's great for students' confidence. It's great for employers, and it's a great way of just building your experience and giving more strings to your bow. I often find that my students who do the year abroad or the year in industry come back as better students because they've had all these experiences and they're more mature and more rounded for it. So if you come here, I'd really encourage you to look at those options. I mentioned before the employability. Employability is kind of built into your degree. So you get to do what we call the Leicester Award. That's embedded into your degree, and this is kind of employability skills that run alongside your academic work, so that when you leave, you're ready for those graduate schemes, you're ready for those interviews, you're ready for those applications. It's part of your degree here. Just some examples of where our graduates have ended up in recent years. People have gone to work in utilities, investment management, data analytics, local government, civil service, remote sensing consultancies. They work as hydrologists, in digital marketing teams, in retail, analytical science, as well as in the civil service. And some of our students go on to do PhDs and become academics. So there really is a wide array of possibilities that geography and geology open up for you at Leicester. Okay, a little bit about applying. I hope I've whetted your appetite for Leicester. So you can do this through UCAS, and you can, our standard requirements are usually ABB or the equivalent, or BBB for students coming from the EPQ, DDM or BTEC backgrounds. So it depends slightly on your pathway. Geography A-level is not required, and general studies is accepted. So that's an important point to bear in mind. And those entry requirements, they can be flexible depending on application numbers and depending on what happens with clearing. So if you're in a position where you think you might not quite make ABB, it's always worth contacting us and sort of having a discussion with staff here, because there may still be a chance. So that's also worth bearing in mind. If you want to find out more, you can go to our Twitter, our Instagram, or our YouTube pages. The YouTube pages have lots of videos of our field trips, taster lectures from some of our staff members, and various other things that you can engage with. You can find us on our website, and I'm very happy to field any emails or questions that you might have. So I think I've managed to hit the half an hour point almost perfectly. So I'm going to congratulate myself and hand over for any questions.
Perfect. Thank you so much for that. We've got a couple of questions coming in, so I'll just relay them to you. So first off, we've got how is geography different at university compared to school, and is it a big jump?
Okay, yeah, it's a good question. I think yeah, geography at university, some of the concepts and some of the themes that you might have done at school or at sixth form are still present. The two big differences is that we go into a lot more depth at university level. So we're not just working from textbooks. We go in, we draw on primary academic work, we draw on scholarly debates, and we teach our students how to use those debates and how to use that kind of work to come up with their own arguments and their own analysis. So that's one part of it, and I think the other thing is that more is expected of you as a student. So we do expect our students to do reading. We do expect them to prepare, and we don't always specify exactly what you should be preparing. We give you guidance, but we like students to take the initiative. So the first year here particularly is about giving you the skills and the frameworks and the support you need so that you can bring your own interests and your own passions into the classrooms and into our seminars. So I'd say that geography, if you've done it at GCSE or if you've done it at A level, it gives you a good foundation, but it's not essential. It is a step up, but it's a supported step up. And I think it's in many ways more enriching. So those are the main differences.
Fantastic. Brilliant. We have another one asking, what made you pick Venezuela?
It's quite a long story, but I guess I'd always been interested in the Americas. I traveled to Chile when I was about 19, and that kind of developed a real interest in Latin America as a continent. Then when I was doing my master's, I was taught by a very inspiring specialist who was actually a Bolivia specialist called Olivia Harris at the LSE. And she kind of just really ignited this sort of passion for Latin America, politics and society in particular. And at that particular time, Venezuela was going through a lot of interesting social and political changes. And I wanted to learn Spanish. I wanted to live abroad. And all those things just kind of came together. So I decided to go somewhere very different to the place that I'd grown up in. And yeah, it's proved to be it's an amazing place, fascinating place, lovely people, and it's been a huge part of my life and still is.
Brilliant. So you even picked up a language.
Yeah, and that's another thing that I would really recommend our students do. I think learning to speak another language, that there are language options here, and I think it's a great thing to do for any student who does a degree, is do a language alongside it. In this country, we have a slightly bad attitude to languages, and I think it's one that probably should be changed, but everyone has the capacity to learn a language, and I think everyone should, because it's a really enriching thing to do.
We've got a student asking, what do you do on the field courses?
Right, so the field courses is mainly based around group-based research projects. So for example, when we go to Copenhagen, which we'll be doing next year, they'll be led by probably 3 or 4 of your academics. Each of us have a theme. We introduce students to those themes, we provide readings on those themes, and then we put you into groups and give you support to go off and do your own research. So that you'll have a group supervisor and you'll design a research project with their support, and then you'll go off into the cities. It might be interviewing people, it might be using visual methods, it might be doing surveys, it might be looking at different social trends in archives, There's a whole array of methods that you can use, but we support you to do that. But then you produce your own research and you present it to the rest of the group at the end of the week.
That sounds amazing.
It's great. Yeah, it's a lot of fun, and you learn a lot. It's a really good experience.
We've got final 2 questions, but I think it makes sense to tackle these almost together. So we have one question asking, do I have to do exams, or can I choose to do coursework instead while at university? And the second question is also asking, what is a dissertation?
Okay, so all the exams, I think that most of the degrees on offer, there will be some exams, but depending on which degree you do and depending on which module options you take, there may be more or less. For example, none of the modules that I teach use exams. We use coursework, presentations, and group work. But some of the first year modules in human geography have exams, sort of seen exams. And I certainly think in physical geography and geology, they also use exams. It tends to be, certainly in human geography, the exam focus reduces through the course of the degree. And that leads me on to the dissertation question. A dissertation is where you do your own individual independent research. So we train you through the course of the second year, and the field course is part of this, to do your own research gathering, how to use research methods, and then you choose a topic that you're interested in, and then you go off and research it. So that might be interviewing people, doing questionnaires. It might be doing mapping exercises, analysing media, discourse analysis. That's in human geography, and then sort of the equivalent techniques and methods would be used in physical geography. And then you have a series of supervision meetings over the course of about 6 months with your supervisor, and they support you to to do the analysis and to use your own findings to engage with current geographical debates and scholarly debates. So we teach you how to be independent scholars, and you produce your own independent research. That's what the dissertation is for. It's a really great experience, and it's something which really counts when it comes to employability.
Fantastic. Right. Well, that comes to the end of the questions. So I'll leave it over to you to sign out.
Okay. Thanks very much for having me. And if anyone would like to ask more questions, you can find my email and ping me a message over. But thanks very much for having me.